Welcome to Dreamy Sleep Tales. Tonight, we journey beyond the flickering hearth into a world of floating mountains, whispering forests, and ancient magic. Snuggle beneath your blankets as we follow young Elric on an unforgettable quest, where courage is kindled by forgotten stories. Monsters unravel before the light of memory, and a single cabin hearth becomes a gateway to adventure. Let the gentle glow of the fireplace gate warm your heart as you drift into dreams woven from bravery, wonder, and the power that lies within every one of us. Now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and prepare to step through the flames into the world of Veloria. Elric settled deeper into the thick quilt his grandmother had draped around him, the firelight painting his cheeks with dancing gold and ember red. Outside, the wind sighed, and snowflakes tapped at the windows like tiny drumbeats. Inside, the cabin felt safe and timeless. Books lined the walls, a kettle murmured softly on the stove, and the air smelled of pine and cinnamon. His grandmother, silver-haired, warm-eyed, and wrapped in a shawl of deep forest green, leaned forward in her rocker. She tapped the hearth with a gnarled finger and smiled. "Are you ready, my brave one?" she asked, her voice low and comforting. Elric nodded, hugging his knees. He had waited all evening for this, the story she reserved for the nights when the moon was high. The wind spoke in hushed tones, and dreams felt close enough to touch. "Then listen well," she whispered. "And remember, believing in your own story is sometimes the bravest magic of all." Long ago in Veloria, a world where mist-wrapped mountains floated among lavender skies and rivers ran with silver song, there stood a cabin much like this one. Its owner was a solitary boy named Kyle, whose heart was brimming with curiosity but weighed down by self-doubt. By day he tended ledgers and counted coins. By night he lost himself in the stories that lined his shelves, dreaming of adventures he felt too small to live. One frosty evening, the hearth's flame winked in an unusual shade of blue. The logs crackled in a pattern like a heartbeat, and for a fleeting moment, the fire leapt as if beckoning. Kyle felt a thrill tighten in his chest. He had heard the old legends, that some fires were not simply doors to warmth, but gates to other worlds. Trembling, Kyle stepped closer. Through the dancing barrier of flame, he glimpsed a forest where trees whispered secrets and shadows curled into shapes he could not name. The legend called it the Flame Gate, a passage that opened only when someone whose heart truly believed in the power of story came near. With a swallow and a whisper of hope, Kyle reached out. The world tilted. The cabin walls melted away into glowing trunks and frost-misted ferns. In his hand, his lantern steadied itself, and so did Kyle's resolve. Kyle's journey began at the foot of a mountain whose face was smooth and pale as bone. Follow the whispers, his book had instructed, but the only sounds were the crunch of his boots and the soft hiss of distant wind. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A low rumble rose from the cliffside, and there, stepping from a crack in the stone, emerged the stone beast, towering, four-legged, with eyes like polished onyx and a rocky mane that crackled with frost. It bellowed, a sound like avalanches and thunder combined. Kyle raised his lantern, its glass glowing golden against the beast's cold stare. But the monster did not move to attack. Instead, it roared again, then lifted one massive paw and stamped the ground, sending shards of gravel skittering across the path. He remembered a line from his book: "No creature of stone may rise again unless its true name is spoken." His fingers shook, but Kyle spoke the words he'd only read moments before. Old, dusty syllables creaking in his throat. The name felt foreign and powerful. As the final word slipped from his lips, the stone beast's expression softened. Its eyes closed. Its rocky form cracked once, then shattered into harmless pebbles, falling silent on the path. Kyle exhaled, surprise and triumph fluttering in his chest. The mountain stood quiet once more, and the lantern's light seemed to shine a little brighter. Deeper into the whispering woods Kyle walked, guided by branches that leaned in to murmur encouragement. But in the heart of the forest, he found a still pool of water so clear it mirrored the world perfectly, which was where the Mirror Serpent awaited. It slithered from beneath the surface, scales gleaming like quicksilver. Its eyes held no malice, but depth, an endless reflection of Kyle's own gaze. Then its tongue flicked, and Kyle felt a cold pulse in his mind. One by one, memories surfaced. The time he dropped his coins in the marketplace and cried for hours. The day he discovered his handwriting was too shaky for even a simple letter. The mornings he spent hidden behind books, afraid of what the real world might demand. Why should I be brave? Kyle thought, even as tears welled in his eyes. The serpent's reflection shifted. Kyle's face grew twisted with every fear he'd ever known. Trembling, Kyle drew in a ragged breath. He closed his eyes and spoke aloud to himself. I have been afraid. I have stumbled, but I am still here. When he opened his eyes, the serpent's mirror-like scales cracked like glass, then dissolved into 1,000 motes of light that drifted through the trees. Kyle felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had looked at his fears, and he had not turned away. Finally, at the wood's edge, Kyle found the clearing where the earth lay scorched and silent. A chill wind carried a whispering hiss, like dozens of voices, all murmuring regrets. There, coiled in the blackened grass, was the Shadowmire, a writhing mass of smoke and shadows, eyes glowing ember red. It spoke without moving lips. You are nothing. You are forgotten. No one remembers you. The words washed over Kyle like ice water. Doubt stabbed at his heart. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am nothing. Kyle's lantern trembled, its light flickering. He raised it, voice shaking, and opened the book he carried. Its pages filled with the stories of every hero he admired. I remember them, he whispered, and I remember me. As he spoke each name, each tale, lifting sentences into the night, the lantern blazed. Words became sparks, sparks became flame. The flame of memory roared to life, casting back the darkness. The Shadowmire shrieked, dissolving into tendrils of mist that fled into the woods, never to return. Kyle stood alone, bathed in the warm light of his own courage. The world shifted once more. The silver song rivers and floating peaks faded. The whispering woods, the mountain, the beasts, all dissolved into the familiar comfort of Kael's cabin. The hearth glowed with a steady orange flame. Kael's grandmother, eyes twinkling, waited by the fire, a cup of cocoa in her hand. "Well done," she said softly. "You have found the heart of the tale." Kael realized then that he carried more than memories. He carried the light of every story he had ever loved, and the knowledge that he too could become the hero of his own life. Elric's grandmother closed the book and laid a gentle hand on his shoulder. The fire crackled in the hearth, ordinary once more. "Believe in your own story, Elric," she said, "for the bravest magic lies within your heart." Elric leaned back, eyes shining. Outside, the snow fell in silence. Inside, a new warmth glowed, not just from the fire, but from something deep inside him. And as he drifted towards sleep, he knew that tomorrow, every little moment, every leaf, every whisper of wind would hold the promise of an adventure all his own. Elric awoke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the frost-edged window panes. The cabin was hushed, save for the gentle hiss of embers settling in the hearth. For a moment, he lay still under his quilt, replaying the tale he'd just heard. In his mind, Kael's journey in Veloria unfolded like living memory. The stone beast's ancient roar, the Mirror Serpent's silent judgment, the fierce burst of the flame of memory. Shivers of excitement ran down his spine as he slipped from the bed and padded to the fire. The logs glowed faintly, as if still stirred by some echo of magic. Elric reached out a hand, half expecting another flicker of blue flame. But the fire was calm and orange again, ordinary, and yet somehow richer than before. "Grandma," he called softly. From the adjoining room came the clatter of mugs and the tinkle of porcelain. Soon she appeared, carrying 2 mugs of steaming cocoa. In the morning light, her shawl was the color of new pine needles, and her eyes shone with a quiet pride. "How do you feel, my brave Elric?" she asked, setting a mug beside him. He took a cautious sip. The warmth spread through him, sweet and comforting. "I feel awake," he said, "like everything's different." She smiled, Magic often feels that way. After breakfast, Elric bundled in his winter coat and stepped outside. The forest lay hushed under fresh snow, each branch a lacework of white. His grandmother's cabin stood at the edge of a small clearing, framed by pines bowed with frost. For a moment, Elric wondered if Veloria's whispering woods might look much the same at sunrise. He wandered along a narrow trail, the silence broken only by his footprints. Here and there, he spotted a curious shimmer, tiny motes of light dancing above the snowdrifts, like the spirits of the Mirror Serpent's shards. Elric paused, heart fluttering. Were these remnants of Kyle's adventure, or simply the sparkle of morning frost? He knelt to inspect a tuft of dried grass, stunned to see a single set of footprints leading away. Prints too small for any animal he knew. He stood and followed them, curious. They wound between the trees, deeper than he'd ever dared to go before. The path ended at a ring of moss-covered stones. In the center, a faded symbol was carved, a small flicker of flame. Elric's breath caught. It was the same emblem he'd seen in Kyle's book, marking the resting place of the flame of memory in Veloria. He pressed a gloved finger to the carving. For an instant, warmth pulsed beneath his touch, and he heard a distant murmur. "Remember, remember." The voice was as soft as falling snow, but it sent a thrill through his veins. Elric swallowed, heart pounding. Whatever had stirred here, it was real. That evening, by firelight, Elric described his discovery. His grandmother listened, eyes distant yet knowing. "You found a memory rune," she said when he finished. "Scattered throughout the world, they mark places where the past and its magic linger." Kyle's adventure left its echoes here, and your own belief has awakened them. Elric's heart swelled. What does it mean? She paused, then reached into a wooden chest beside her chair. From within, she drew a small, weathered map bound with leather. Symbols of flame and stone and water were sketched across it, runes like the one he'd found. "This map leads to the 4 ember stones," she explained. "Fragments of the flame of memory, cast across distant lands. If you gather them, you'll restore the gate's power, so that belief can open other worlds once more. Elric's eyes widened as he traced the route with a trembling finger. Can I really do this? She smiled, brushing back a lock of silver hair. You already have, my dear. Your courage is the lantern that will guide you. With dawn on the third day, Elric set out on his quest. His grandmother handed him the map and his own sturdy lantern, warmed not by oil, but by words she pressed into his hand. Strips of parchment inscribed with lines from Kyle's journey. The first ember stone lay beyond the frozen lake north of the cabin, in a cavern where icicles hummed like bells. Elric trudged through knee-deep snow, the map tucked inside his coat. The wind bit at his cheeks, but he pressed on, lantern glowing steady. When he reached the lake's edge, the wind carried a haunting melody, tiny chimes echoing across the ice. Elric followed the sound to a hidden cleft in the shoreline rocks, just wide enough for him to slip inside. Within the cavern, walls glittered like stars. Above, icicles hung in crystalline curtains, and at the center of the chamber, resting on a dais of frost, was a shard of pale blue fire, the ember stone. As Elric approached, the cold flame pulsed, matching the beat of his heart. He knelt and carefully lifted it. The lantern's glow shifted, taking on a soft blue hue, melding with the fire's pulse. In the brief silence, Elric heard a whisper. Courage awakens hope. He tucked the ember stone into a pouch and made his way back, triumphant and exhilarated. Over the next days, Elric traveled far beyond the cabin's snowy woods. He crossed wind-swept plains to reach the desert of whispers, where dunes sang secrets to those who would listen. Under a white moon, he found the second ember stone buried beneath an ancient obelisk, its sandy surface carved with running script. To unearth it, he had to recite the lines hidden in his grandmother's map, old verses about memory and belonging. As he spoke, the dunes stilled and the obelisk glowed. Sand swirled away to reveal a fragment of golden flame. When he held it aloft, the lantern around his neck shone like a twin star. With 2 ember stones secured, Elric charted a course southward toward the Silverwood Swamp and the sunken temple beyond. where two more fragments awaited. Elric's boots squelched as he entered the Silverwood swamp, where willow-like trees drooped with silvery moss, and the air was thick with mist. The map guided him along winding paths, lined with phosphorescent fungi that pulsed softly beneath his lantern's light. Mist can hide many things, his grandmother had warned. Trust your heart and the glow of belief. He pressed on, following a line of faint glyphs etched into gnarled roots. Every so often, a low croak or the flutter of unseen wings echoed through the haze. Elric kept his lantern high, its blue and gold glow mingling with the swamp's pale luminescence. After what felt like hours, he came upon a pool of black water, perfectly still as glass. In its center stood a stone altar slick with damp. Resting atop it was the third ember stone, a deep emerald flame that shimmered like a heartbeat under the mist. But as Elric stepped forward, the water rippled, and from its depths rose a creature of twisted vines and glowing eyes, the Mire Guardian. Its voice was a soft hush, like rustling leaves. Only one who remembers kindness may claim this flame. Elric's heart fluttered. He closed his eyes and thought of every act of kindness he had ever known. The time he shared his cloak with a shivering traveler. The afternoons he helped his grandmother gather herbs. The gentle words he'd offered to frightened animals in the forest. He spoke each memory aloud, letting them shine like lanterns in the gloom. With every recollection, the Mire Guardian's form softened, its vines uncurling until at last it bowed and vanished beneath the waters. Elric lifted the emerald ember stone carefully and tucked it into his pouch. A warmth spread through his chest, mingling with the soft glow of his lantern and the humming life of the swamp around him. With 3 fragments in his pouch, Elric braved the final leg of his journey. The trek across the crimson canyons to the sunken temple of echoed dreams, said to lie beneath a lake tinted like blood. The sun beat down mercilessly, and blazing rocks formed a maze of crimson cliffs. Elric's lantern blinked against the glaring light, but he kept the map close and his resolve closer. At dusk, he reached the lake's edge. The water dark and serene, it reflected the sky in deep red, as if stained by sunset forever. Submerged beneath the surface, he made out the spire of a white marble temple. Drawing a deep breath, he waded into the water. It was icy cold, but he pressed on, guided by the lantern's gleam. When he reached the temple's sunken steps, he found the final ember stone, a ruby-red shard, resting on the altar at the heart of the submerged sanctuary. As he reached for it, a voice echoed through the water. Only the one who dares to dream beyond fear may claim the last flame. Elric closed his eyes beneath the water and remembered his earliest dreams of flying among stars, of telling stories that warmed hearts, of adventures that began with a single spark of hope. He drew the ember stone from its resting place, and as he did, the temple's pillars glowed. The water around him shimmered with echoes of laughter and song, dreams from countless souls woven into the sanctuary's stones. He surfaced, the ruby flame safe in his pouch, and gasped as the lake's crimson hue faded into clear water, reflecting a moonlit sky. 3 ember stones glowed softly at his side. One remained, the final fragment hidden within the heart of his grandmother's cabin. Footsteps light but sure, Elric retraced his journey through canyon, swamp, desert, frozen lake, and forest until he stood once more before the warm hearth. The cabin door swung open before he could knock. His grandmother stood waiting, her shawl wrapped tight and her eyes bright. "You've done well," she whispered, drawing him into an embrace. She led him to the hearth. Above it, carved into the stone, was a single empty rune, a place for the final ember stone. Elric reached into his pouch and withdrew the ruby shard. As he pressed it into the rune, the fireplace flickered. Blue, green, gold, and red flames dancing together in a swirl of light. The gate awoke. Tendrils of flame leapt into the air, forming a doorway of pure story fire. Beyond the hearth, the cabin's walls melted away to reveal Veloria's floating mountains, silver rivers, and whispering forests, ready once more to welcome those who believed. Hand in hand, Elric and his grandmother stepped through the gateway of fire. A gentle wind carried the scent of pine and starlight. Below them stretched the world of Veloria, alive with wonders yet unseen. Elric, his grandmother said, there are tales still waiting to be discovered. Heroes and monsters, magic and memory, all woven into this land. And you now carry the light to guide them. Elric's heart swelled as the flame gate closed behind them. With a soft sigh, he realized that this was not the end of his story, but its true beginning. Back in his bed that night, Elric lay beneath his quilt, the fire in his heart still glowing with every ember's memory. Outside, the forest was silent. Inside, the cabin brimmed with the promise of countless stories yet to come. And somewhere beyond wood and flame, Veloria waited, its gate alive in every spark of imagination, ready to welcome the next brave soul who would dare to believe. So, dear listeners, thank you for joining me on this enchanting journey through the Fireplace Gate and the wondrous world of Veloria. I hope Elric's adventure has warmed your heart and sparked your imagination, reminding you that every story you carry within you can light the darkest of nights. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, please like this video and subscribe to Dreamy Sleep Tales for more magical bedtime stories designed to soothe your mind and fuel your dreams. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an adventure. Until next time, may your dreams be filled with courage, wonder, and the gentle glow of story fire. Good night, dear listeners, and sweet dreams from my heart to yours.